Bloomfield's dedicated update show. Events, businesses, and people. Anything and anyone causing a ripple in the community. And now, let's dive in to The Splash Live.
Good morning and welcome to The Splash Live on this sunny day right here in West Bloomfield. I'm Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us across all of our outlets this morning at a very busy morning after the Michigan State shooting last night. We're going to talk to, of course, our police deputy chief, Curt Lawson, get his reaction, and we'll talk to one of the parents that went to Michigan State from our community last night. It just happened to be our fire chief, Flynn, who has dual perspective on this. We'll talk to him in a couple of minutes about picking up his son, all the emotions surrounding last night, and then also get his reaction as a first responder. That and much more coming up this morning here on The Splash. Splash is part of 90 Minutes of live television each and every day right here on Civic Center TV. Start at 9:30 or so with yours truly, Tyler Keefe, and at 10 o'clock today. Tyler, an MSU alum, will also have extensive coverage today from a local standpoint of this tragic story at Michigan State. So stay tuned. An hour and a half of coverage that you really probably haven't heard anywhere else from a more local perspective this morning right here on Civic Center TV. Thank you very much for watching across all of our platforms. That is Channel 15 if you're a Comcast subscriber. Civic Center TV, of course, Channel 99 on AT&T. We thank you for joining us on our website. Almost 50,000 of you did in 2022, and our numbers are growing for 2023. Thank you so much for tuning in there with the live stream and all the archives and additional information. Lots of people joining us each and every day on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you very much. We've got the live streams going there. And of course, we are live on the radio in our community right here on 89.3 Lakes FM. Great way to stay with us as you're driving to work or doing whatever you have to do. And when you head out the door, if you haven't done so yet today, absolutely remarkable in our community. We're going to have a 52-degree day, sunshine. Enjoy it today because there is some windy weather, clouds, and eventually cooler temperatures heading in over the next couple of days. So 52 our high, 46 our low tonight. And again, you'll be able to see the weather start to change as we get toward the end of the day. So if you have not heard the news, 8:31 last night, police are called to the campus of Michigan State University where there was a shooting at Berkey Hall. 3 perished last night, 5 still in critical condition. That shooting moved on to the student union. Interim Michigan State President Teresa Woodruff, speaking to the media, said they're devastated at the loss of life. Our campus grieves. We will grieve. We will change over time. We cannot allow this to continue to happen. School has moved to emergency operations for 2 days, she said, to allow students, staff, and faculty to think, grieve, and be together after a day of shock and trauma. On the front line of all this, good friend of the show, our West Bloomfield Fire Chief and father of Michigan State student, Flynn, joins us this morning. Chief Flynn, thank you very much for joining us on The Splash at another very difficult day. I think it was summed up pretty well on TV last night when there was the coverage immediately after the shooting, and one of the major networks, I think CNN, had a camera and a bunch of students, and right there in the front of that row of students was someone wearing an Oxford Strong shirt. Tough times we're living in, Chief. Your reaction this morning?
Well, I first of all want to start off by just extending my condolences to those families that are grieving the loss, and those that the healthcare professionals that are caring for those that are injured in the hospital. So I think you nailed it, Dave. These are things that I will say when my son reached out, just the fact that he was already sheltered in place, that he had barricaded the door, that his suite mates were doing the same thing, and they were together and they were silent and turning off lights. Really want to highlight that the resiliency of the youth, these young adults that did the right thing and were responsive, and they've been learning that now, fortunately or unfortunately, Dave, since they were in school and in middle school and sooner, and that's just that's where we are today. And I'm grateful that so many students did the right thing and that minimized the loss of life, and grateful for the first responders, the law enforcement community that responded so quickly.
Yeah, I was so impressed last night with the reaction from law enforcement, the first responders, all of the first responder community in the area around Michigan State reacting so quickly, getting on the scene so quickly, aggressively entering the buildings and doing everything that you want to see happen at an event like this. We're going to talk to Deputy Chief Curt Lawson in a couple of minutes more about some of the logistics of last night, and then what a great job releasing the information to the media, which is sometimes tough to do, and then putting this picture that we have right here out in front of the media, and then within, like, by midnight, that picture seen on TV led to a lead from a resident in the city of Lansing that led to police getting to the shooter in a very quick period of time. So, really everybody handled this extremely well. Let's talk a little bit more about your personal situation. So this event kicked off at about 8:31 last night. Take us through the timeline in the Flynn home when your phone rang, and just take us through your experience, if you would, with your son last night.
So shortly after that, Danielle received a call from another Spartan parent, and just moments after that, we connected with Garrett, and he told us about the shelter-in-place alert that had gone out through the campus network, which worked very effectively, and he was in his room, and he's in Hubbard, which was relatively close to the IM building, and so there was a great deal of activity around his area of the campus there. And then we just touched base with him.
Continue on, Greg. I'm sorry. Continue on.
Yeah, and then we just continued to touch base with him every 30 to 40 minutes, and now we're trying to be respectful of the, not to make noise and be calling your kids, so just texting back and forth. And he kept us informed and assured us that there was law enforcement presence in the building and up on his floor. And just the reality of all of that happening, I think was, he was processing along with the suite mates, and very proud of him.
Well, talk about your reaction, the reaction of your family, and obviously you were in touch with other Michigan State parents. Do you want to just take us through what must have been a very emotional evening for you and the other parents you were in touch with?
Well, yeah, and there's so many Spartans out there, and I think it's just you're just checking in, and that worst fear is that one of the parents isn't able to connect, and that did happen for some of them, and we'll do our part as they grieve, but as you can see through social media and through the night and through text messages, just how quickly the word had spread and how quickly people wanted to check in on loved ones that were on the campus.
So we've touched on a little bit. West Bloomfield Fire Chief Greg Flynn joining us, one of our first responders right here at home. If you would just chat about this a little bit, and we're going to talk to Curt Lawson in just a moment and get into more of the nitty-gritty, but chat about this just a little bit from your observations as a first responder and just your reaction to how this incident was handled last night, and anything else that you would like to add.
Sure. Shortly after that, I will share with you that through our alert system within the fire service across Michigan, there was a request that went out for additional ambulances. West Bloomfield was part of a group of 6 ambulances that was sent from the Oakway Mutual Aid Group here in Oakland County, and they were in East Lansing in a staging area. And remained there until that intel came in that they had mitigated the situation and found the assailant. So very pleased that quickly the request came in quickly, and West Bloomfield had the resources available to send and mobilize within minutes of their request The response overall, I think, went as we trained for, and that's the preliminary, overview from what I'm seeing on the media. There'll be much more coming out in an after-action review in the weeks and months ahead, where professionals will take a deep dive into what we will sustain, what went really well, and where we need to continue to refine and make improvements. But I think that this was more of a challenge, and I'm sure the deputy chief will talk more about this, just the size of the campus, the number of individuals impacted in that area, and the time of day, the fact that it was dark, and operating in that environment brings a different set of challenges for the law enforcement community.
Well, it's remarkable that as far away as we are, over an hour drive away, that the network of first responders would extend all the way to West Bloomfield. You think about that as someone who is not exposed to this like you are, and that's really remarkable. But in retrospect, not really very surprising. So good job. It can't be easy to make all of this happen in the middle of a crisis. And I know you are on the front line of emergency management right here in West Bloomfield, but isn't part of this just keeping your head, implementing your plan, and implementing what you have rehearsed? But that can't be easy when you're right in the thick of it.
I think you struck on something in your opening comments, Dave, that are very important. That the leadership there with Michigan State University Public Safety, getting out in front early, sharing information, sharing that information, how the consumers that are directly impacted are going to receive it through social media, letting those students know what's going on. I give them very high marks in that area. And as a parent, high marks, because that's the exact information we wanted to know. We wanted to know what buildings, what dorms have been cleared, and providing that specific information immediately put hundreds, if not thousands, of parents at ease, knowing that their students' dorm rooms were safe and they had been cleared. So I thought that approach was very helpful, and even the local news coverage, while I think there was just a little bit of maybe a premature release of some information, other than that, I think they were very cautious about saying things that were speculative and that were not confirmed by the law enforcement community in command of the incident.
Yeah, I would say that as these incidents go from a media perspective, my area of expertise, I can't think of a way to handle it much better than it was handled last night. The information was free-flowing. It impacted the apprehension of the suspected shooter, and kept parents like you informed throughout. Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it, Greg Flynn. Best to you and your family and the entire Michigan State family. And thank you for a couple of moments this morning to share your thoughts and story with us.
You bet, Dave.
All right. He is our fire chief, Greg Flynn. We're going to take a quick break. Joining us in just a minute, Deputy Chief of Police Curt Lawson joins us. We'll get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of how the first responders executed their job last night, and get some reaction from someone who's on the front line right here in West Bloomfield. When we return, good morning. I'm Dave Scott. You're watching The Splash on this very challenging morning after 3 shot dead, 3 students, and 5 others in the hospital at Michigan State University last night. We'll be back in just a moment. You're watching The Splash Live.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live. WB Parks and the West Bloomfield Diversity Task Force once again invite you to the 2023 Black Expo. Drop by Orchard Mall and tour demos and displays that highlight Black business owners, resources, and careers. Bring your friends and family to shop around local vendors and support their hard work and dedication to their craft. Come on down Saturday, February 25th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Orchard Mall in West Bloomfield. The 2023 Black Expo. It's that time of year, Greater West Bloomfield. Our towns gather together this March for the 5th annual State of the Communities. Important figures from Sylvan Lake, West Bloomfield, Orchard Lake, and Kego Harbor discuss the past year's projects and developments. Hear presentations from speakers, discussions on plans of action, and more. The 5th annual State of the Communities, March 13th at 7 p.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. And now, back to the Splash, live.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Splash Live. Dave Scott in our Civic Center studios. Good to be with you and glad you're safe and comfortable and home and warm on this West Bloomfield morning. Good to be with you again. And also joining us right now is our Deputy Chief of the West Bloomfield Police Department, Curt Lawson. Curt, good morning. Another challenging morning, but good to have you with us. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule this morning.
Good morning, Dave. Glad to be here.
So, as you probably heard your colleague Greg Flynn there just a couple of minutes ago. These parents just had to be on an emotional roller coaster last night when the phone calls started, the social media started, and the word came out from the media at about 8:18 last night that there was an active shooter on the campus at Michigan State University. Interesting to hear his perspective. From you this morning, as we were mentioning a couple of minutes ago, this was handled incredibly well by the first responders. Your reaction so far from what you've heard?
Sure. Well, first of all, our thoughts go with all the victims and their families, and of course, the whole Spark community. Obviously, a very tough morning for everyone in the state of Michigan. We keep seeing these things over and over, and unfortunately, there's no easy answers. But to get back to your question about how the operation by the police department and the fire department is handled in East Lansing, I thought they did a fabulous job. I was able to listen to a lot of the radio traffic last night, and I was very impressed on how coordinated it was, how organized. Everyone was very calm, the officers and the firemen, and did a fantastic job in a very difficult circumstance.
Well, that's an interesting point you made. So it doesn't surprise me that you have the communications tools. So when there is a statewide event, you can hear the communication even if you're not on site. And I presume that's what you were alluding to.
Correct. There was an app that the Michigan State the police department up there subscribes to that you're able to, even in the public, to be able to go in and take a look. And it was very interesting to see, just like I said, how calm everyone was in such a difficult circumstance. They were getting numerous phone calls of shootings in different places on the campus. Many of these phone calls turn out to be false, and it just really stretched the resources to the greatest extent. But my hats off to all the different communities that showed up to try to help. Even our own great fire department here sent a squad there, and I think that was wonderful that we were prepared to help in any way possible.
So the first call was at 8:18, and according to information through the media that we've received so far, the first responders were there within minutes and did exactly what you want to see in an active shooter situation: enter the buildings and be proactive. And according to all the information we have, that's what happened last night.
100%. And there's some specific keys that we train throughout the state of Michigan. And is that one of those keys is, the first officers on the scene, they need to find and they need to neutralize the threat. At the same time, we're setting up a unified command with the police, the fire, with school officials, because we want to ensure that we have consistent messaging and coordination as we move through the incident. And we want to get information out to the public, out to those students, out to the parents, out to the media. We want to control that narrative, and they did that very well, I thought. And then we also saw something that's relatively new in public safety is they set up rescue task forces. That's where police and fire officers, they join forces, they go to look for victims, they go and secure different areas, as we saw in the dorm rooms. We asked the kids to shelter in place, and all those things were done really well last night.
Well, and this was complicated because this started in one building in Berkey Hall, and then the shooter moved to the Student Union, and that happened around 9:26 or so. So there was a very active timeline for a period of time where the shooter wasn't immediately apprehended. He was on foot. He was making his way from one building to another. That's got to complicate things.
100%. It's what we call the fog of war. There's a lot of information coming in. There was numerous false calls, 911 calls, that they were shooting at different places throughout the campus, and I'm sure those are going to be investigated. But in this incident, this event, this was a prolonged event. Most active assailant situations that we see throughout our country the last several years, they last 4 to 7 minutes. This lasted over a period of several hours.
Well, and then I thought the MSU police, first of all, they did a great job communicating on TV last night. And, it's a balance, and it's not easy to figure out how much do you share. You don't want to share things that you're not ready to share, but I thought they handled that perfectly last night, and I was really impressed that they were able to capture a picture from that hallway. This is going to be a famous picture that we're all going to remember here in the state of Michigan, the picture of the shooter entering one of the buildings. That probably was a building camera, that they were able to get that picture very quickly and then release it to the public at large. And as we heard from the Lansing police chief in one of the press conferences earlier this morning, with that release came a lead from a citizen in Lansing that had spotted this individual that resulted in the police getting to the scene. Handled amazingly well. Talk about your thoughts about that.
It's great coordination between school officials, law enforcement, public safety, and the campus there. And I think getting that information out and making sure it's verified information is essential. And I think unfortunately, we've seen shootings throughout the country where that information has not gone out very well. It's not been organized. It's not been coordinated. And in this situation, it was verified information that was being pushed out to the eyes and ears that thousands of students and faculty around the campus can look for this individual. So I think it was a great move to put that picture out there, because obviously for 4 hours they could not locate this individual.
I assume that you as an individual, your police department here in West Bloomfield, and the entire police community will take a look at this, do a post-mortem, and learn from the things that went really well here, and then be able to use that here to make preparations for the day that we hope never comes to West Bloomfield.
Well, absolutely. In Oakland County here, we all train on the same platform. So when other jurisdictions, if they would have to come to West Bloomfield, we're all trained alike. We know exactly what we're doing. We do have a plan. We train on that plan, but we're always reevaluating every incident that comes up to see what we can learn. Lessons learned, so important. Looking at the history. History tends to repeat itself. We look at mistakes and make sure that we don't repeat those mistakes as we move forward.
Have you had a chance to talk to others in the West Bloomfield Police Department? Maybe the chief, discuss this, and what kind of conversations have you guys had?
Well, we have additional officers at schools today. Every school within our jurisdiction continually gets our presence. We're very visible within our jurisdiction at the schools. We work closely with school officials, so we stay in close communication with them. Any threats, obviously, we share with them and they share with us. So we have a great working relationship with our school district. Last night, we had our special response team on standby. We had other officers that were willing to go to East Lansing. We felt that at the time it was not something that we wanted to do because there were so many police officers and firemen that were responding to East Lansing. At some point, it becomes just absolutely too much. But there's just so many individuals within public safety and situations like that they want to go and help. And my hat's off to them. It's outstanding, and that's what makes them so special.
Well, that's smart that you have extra officers on site at schools today. I think we saw some of that, some reaction from the public at large, not necessarily copycats, but just reaction that happens surrounding these events. It's helpful that you're keeping a closer eye on things. And I assume that's what you're referring to this morning.
Correct. And it gives a sense of calm to the parents and the students that come to school. Obviously, they know what happened at Michigan State last night. And when they come and they see a police officer being present or extra patrols at different schools, I think that puts a sense of calm on everyone's mind, and they can move forward and do their schoolwork. So.
And we've seen some of these incidents. I mean, this is not an easy task. We've seen some of these incidents that haven't been handled as perfectly as last night. There's so much going on. It's so difficult. Certainly, you don't always get it right, but I think it's safe to say this one was handled extremely well, and that's got to make law enforcement everywhere very proud this morning.
Right. It's another example about being prepared and how important that is. I think that schools within the West Bloomfield jurisdiction have done a nice job, either training on Alice or something similar to Alice, where they can, they train the run, hide, fight. We talk about tourniquets and how important it is to stop bleeding in certain circumstances. And obviously, we coordinate with the schools on what our response is going to be and what we expect from them. And so it's just a great partnership. And, we hope that this never happens here in West Bloomfield, but we feel we're pretty prepared if something were to happen.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, Curt, as you say that it's got to be in the back of the mind, or maybe in the front of the mind of every police officer, every second, even maybe off duty, that he or she may be the first one to walk into an incident like this, and just the actions that they will have to take, putting their own life at risk and entering these scenes. It's just, and you never know. I mean, it just like in a split second, it could change your day, your life, and that's got to be on the mind of everyone in your business right now.
Absolutely. And it's always on Chief Patton's mind and my mind that, at some point we might be sending, 21, 22, 23-year-olds into a situation that they may not return from. It's difficult, but it's the job we signed up for, and our team does a great job, and they're willing to do what they need to do to keep our community safe.
Curt Lawson, Deputy Police Chief here in West Bloomfield. You always do a remarkable job. I know it's busy over there. Thank you for taking a moment for the community this morning, and good to see you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
You too. So there you have it. Our community directly involved. I was a little bit surprised to hear that even our fire departments, first responders, were ready and able to send a crew to Lansing, even though we're a little over an hour away. Always involved, but always on guard and doing everything they can during an incident like this to make sure that even today that students going to school are comfortable right here at home, and obviously observing, learning from, and continuing to stay alert in these troubling times. That's going to be it for me this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. We have our own Tyler Keys standing by. He'll be in here in just a couple of moments with more extensive coverage of the story this morning on the MegaCast. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning right here on the Splash Live.